Hi, hello. My name is Bartek from the Smart Software House, a product house specialized in marketplace solutions to support the sharing economy movement. Today I will have a pleasure to talk with Luke Gavin, owner of Elmo, the startup marketplace which offers rental electric cars in subscription model. Hi, Luke.
Hi Bartek.
Hi, thank you for joining us. Can you please tell us a bit more about your idea and your product?
Yeah, of course. So we started Elmo about 3 months ago, and what we're aiming to do is provide flexible, affordable, and simple electric vehicle subscriptions to users who are looking to go electric. And sort of the principle behind this is that electric vehicles are currently too expensive, and they're a very complicated market. So what we're trying to do is put all the components of electric vehicle ownership in one monthly bill, and because of the lower running costs associated with electric vehicles, we hope to be able to provide an affordable solution that's cheaper than a petrol or diesel car, and by bundling all the services you need into one simple monthly bill, we hope to solve the complexity problem around electric vehicles that's currently in place.
Why this idea? What's the history behind it?
So I worked for a couple of years for a consultancy that was specializing in electric vehicles and sort of trying to shift the UK to use electric vehicles. And we did a lot of work with government on policy advice and also big corporations looking to enter the market. And from there was sort of two problems, which I mentioned before, that really sort of stood out, that were holding back the industry in the UK, which was the cost of the cars themselves, and also the complexity. And people just had this sort of ingrained bias against this technology because of just this sort of barrier of complexity that they just didn't want to overcome. And from there it became clear that something needed to change, and the traditional car market in the UK wasn't providing this solution, and that was really where the idea came from. So by providing a flexible, affordable solution, we believe that we can really make that shift accelerate. And then I got together with Ollie, my co-founder, and then from there we worked together to sort of build that sort of small idea into a concept that we think works.
To execute your idea, you need a strong team behind it. Can you please tell us a bit more? How did you find your co-founder?
So I was very lucky. Me and Ollie went to school together, so we've been sort of incredibly good friends since we were about 14. And yeah, it just felt natural. I mean, I think our skills complement each other. He's head of marketing for 5 years at a startup, and he's been working in the startup space. I've been working in the renewable energy and sort of electromobility markets. So together, we really feel that we have the skills to execute this well. And it just was very fortunate that he's one of my very good friends.
What about financing? How did you get it?
So the financing was quite tough. So we basically got together early this year and said, yeah, we like this idea. I think it's got legs. I think we should go for it. If we can raise the money, we'll do it. So we started thinking how we could do that. We had a couple of sort of industry events or big meetups where we pitched the idea to a selection of people, and we basically just asked everyone we knew to grab someone and pull them in the room. And from that, we managed to get a chunk of the funding. And then once we went to sort of larger players, and we got a big institutional investor to come in and finish the round. And then, yeah, so it's sort of a slow and gradual process that we just sort of ended up getting.
Building a marketplace is a lot of work to do, as you need to solve the chicken and egg problem, which means as you don't have inventory on your platforms, you need to convince people to give cars to your platform. On the other hand, you need to attract buyers when there is no inventory yet. How do you want to deal with that problem?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and it's a really tough one. And I think one of our main issues will be balancing the demand and supply, and it can go both ways. Either you have, in our case, too many cars and no one wants them, or you have, 1,000-person waiting list and no cars. And it's more a sense, I guess, a point of timing, really. You just got to match that demand and supply as they come on. So we decided to release a very early product that was sort of a slight branch away from our main product, which is this sort of EV suitability tool. And it sort of takes a detailed look at people's driving habits and then recommends cars based on those. And we felt it's just quite a useful thing for people to do. I mean, it takes 2 minutes. It's super easy. And from that, we've got a sort of small amount of traction and also built a sort of email list of people that are interested, which we can then take to suppliers and say, kind of, look, these people are waiting for a car. So come on board. And then hopefully, we can sort of do that balancing act of matching supply and demand. We're quite lucky that there's just a lot of interest in the space. You know, like electric cars, everyone's talking about them now. People are starting to believe they're the future. And then on top of that, people are starting to think about new ways of using a car and sort of moving away from ownership. So, you know, we tick a lot of boxes in terms of what people are currently interested in. And that really helps when you're trying to convince people, especially suppliers of the cars themselves, to come on board and sort of believe in your vision.
You are entering a very innovative market, electric cars. Do you think that you need a special strategy or a special approach for such an innovative market?
Yeah, I mean, from the way we see it, electric cars are an innovation, but they're not, you know, they're not a radical innovation. They're just cars, and we believe they're just a better way of driving a car. They obviously have differences in terms of a user experience, and we're trying to take advantage of that by building a product that's specifically designed for the electric vehicle market. So an example of this is, you know, an electric vehicle is, say, £5,000 more expensive, but it's about £1,000 a year less to run. So you can pay back that difference in 5 years. So we've designed a product that, by putting all of those costs in a monthly payment, you get those running cost savings from day one, and you can save money from day one. So although the electric vehicle market is innovation in some way, it allows different products to come forward. And that's kind of what we're trying to do, and what others, I'm sure, will try and do. But yeah, I think the more innovative market is possibly this sort of move to a subscription, move away from ownership, and how that can work, and how a sort of distributed fleet can be utilized by a larger population. And that's something we're really looking to innovate in, and something that we hope to grow in going forward.
Not solving the problems of the real users is the biggest reason for startups failures, for marketplace failures as well. What real problems of the users do you want to solve?
Yeah, I think, again, it's a very important point. And what we've tried to do is really keep in mind the two things that we're trying to solve, and really try and simplify it. That currently electric cars are too expensive for the average user, and the process is too complex. And if we keep those in mind and think everything we try and do is trying to solve either one of those two things, then we hope that we're providing a real and useful solution to people. But the honest answer is we won't really know until we have the product out there and we're testing it. And then I guess our aim is just to stay as flexible as possible. And if the feedback from users says we don't want this isn't the solution we want, then we'll look to change it and make sure it is in the future.
Thank you for this honesty and this courage to say so. That we really don't know it. You're just going to validate
it.
I
think there's a lot of stuff we don't know at the moment. But.
Let's talk about maybe a bit about execution of your idea. As behind the idea, you need to have a strong team. How did you find your technology partner? What was the criteria to choose it? Yeah,
so, I mean, we came at it, so neither Ollie or I have experience, not only from a technical background of sales, but haven't had an experience in building a technology platform. So we kind of came at it really new, which meant, and it is, I'm sure you know, it's sort of like quite a scary world when you don't know what's going on. And we've all heard those horror stories of people getting apps developed for sort of hundreds of thousands of pounds that just don't work. And it is, so we were sort of quite nervous. And so our approach was just to speak to as many people as possible. So, we reached out to sort of 25 software houses. We sort of had interviews with about 15, 20 of those, narrowed it down to about 3, and then met most of them face to face. And then sort of went from there. And our criteria was, cost is obviously important, consideration, but for us, in terms of what we were looking for, was someone who could really take the idea that we had in our head and help us build the process of how to build that. And I think that was really important for us, from someone who's never done product development before. That would sort of help us along that way and make sure that the communication between us and the tech team was there, so that, you know, our naivety and our inexperience didn't mean that there was sort of serious problems in the tech build. So that was sort of our main process. And we kind of based that on really what the sort of initial workshop looked like, and how well we felt we could communicate with Desmart in the end.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice that you can give to the startupper who just start on the sharing economy?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's probably a bit hard to give advice because we're just so early. But in terms of the lessons learned, I would say just do it. Like, everything you do, you'll learn an incredible amount. So like, trying to keep stuff back until it's perfect will mean you're just delaying those lessons that you can learn. And I think it's a good example with our product that we ended up releasing, the suitability tool. It wasn't perfect in the slightest. But from that, we've gained so much. We've gained, people have just got in contact who are now potential partners. We've gained a small amount of traction. You know, people are actually talking about us, even though our product's not released yet. And that all came down to just releasing what we had, just have an idea and just go for it. And yeah, I mean, that's probably, hopefully we'll have a bit more advice in a few months' time, but that's, I guess, the main one that comes back.